So did you say you went to some kind of breathing expedition or some breathe-athon?
Just the thoughts of a breathing expedition. That's funny. But, I suppose that's probably a thing. There are all sorts of breathing workshops where you go and do it. And actually, I didn't go to a breathing expedition. It was just a one-on-one thing with a guided breath journey. It was actually quite comparable to doing a guided psilocybin journey, having done both now. Like, actually, I was shocked at how quickly the guided breathing brought on a bit of an altered state.
Really?
And how intense it was. And then from how intense it was, how relatively quickly my nervous system came back to normal, and then I could drive home. So it was,
wow.
it was fairly intense experience. It was interesting.
Will you tell me about it? Like, firstly, is it like an hour? Is it like an afternoon kind of thing?
It was about 2 hours. I was at this woman's house in a remote area. I drove out there. I went to see her for a few reasons. One, I had been recommended her by another professional that I treated years ago, and I recognized her name and was interested just about the process. And then more recently, in the span of a week and a half, I had 3 of my clients had all individually, without me recommending them, gone and seen this person. Wow. So I was like, huh, this is the world's calling me. I'm gonna look into this a bit. I think it was after I read that book, which I've talked about before, Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art, of just understanding different breathing practices. I think in that he goes and does a guided breath journey, and so it piqued my interest learning about it, and then had a few other people that have a lot of background of different sort of traumas and just tension and stress they're holding in their bodies, and they both found that the process was really helpful. So I went out and gave it a shot, but partly to see if it could help me, partly out of just professional curiosity to see what happens.
So you show up, and do they, I mean, I'm trying to imagine, is it like nicely appointed? Is it like, let's get ready to breathe, there's curtains and candles, or?
It was in a closed off living room of the front of a house, and she had, I guess, like a yoga mat on the floor with a pillow kind of thing. We sat down and chatted a bit for about what it is that what I was looking to get out of it. Sort of some of
So you like create an intention, kind of?
You create an intention. There was an online form I filled out first about a little bit of background, and then we sat down and chatted about a bit of a history, of background of me, and then an intention of what it was I was looking to get out of it. And then we chatted for probably 20 minutes, and then she gave me a bit of background of what to expect, and that it can go in any direction, and kind of best to not sort of don't necessarily resist, just sort of go with it. And she's there to kind of guide the process a bit. And it's like, if you need to cry. If you need to yell and scream, yell and scream. If you need to like fight or wrestle, let's fight or wrestle. Kind of like let's do what your body needs out of this, and kind of
rest. So it's like trying to get, like, not trying to, but it's allowing. I mean, I don't know how to say it except metaphorically, like just letting your nervous system get stuff out, like express where you might inhibit.
Totally. And like as a professional business guy, a father of 3, and 3 teenagers, I'm doing lots of stuff constantly, and like, you have emotions, you can't always deal with them at the time, and then there's always a next thing coming and a next thing coming, and you don't necessarily have time to deal with them or ability to deal with them, and you kind of just keep going. And so you don't necessarily give yourself time to either process it or grieve something or do this or that. And so it's kind of all right, here's an opportunity. Like, they have there's places where you can go and just into a room and break shit.
Yeah, I know. I've heard about that.
Okay. That's so fun. That's out in Richmond somewhere. There's like, here's a bat, go in this room, and here's some protective goggles. I don't think
I knew we had one. I just heard about one in Vegas or something. Okay, word.
That might be my next adventure. We should go do that and talk.
Maybe we should do a YouTube video, Brent and Matt break shit.
Yeah, and that can be cathartic and therapeutic, as can having someone be there, like, no judgment, do what you need. I'll kind of help keep you on track. And then it's gave me some, just like a little mask to kind of get out from the visual perspective, just kind of go inward. Yeah. Put on some calming music, which was very similar to when I did a psilocybin journey, and kind of, and then guides you to start taking deep rhythmical breaths. And like,
I've
And
done that with the Wim Hof breathing. I don't know if you know about Wim Hof breathing, but
yeah, and she actually specifically said it's not necessarily exactly like the
and
Wim
I was
Hof
gonna say,
breathing.
like, if you're listening to this, don't just go Google Wim Hof breathing and doing it. Super weird, and the guy is respectfully super off-putting.
Yeah.
But that other stateness of doing it is crazy. It's like, well, you're 1 minute into that kind of large breathing, and I remember I've done it a few times. It's like quite impactful.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
kind of
So what happened in your brain? Yeah. Like what were you
well,
feeling?
she'd warned me ahead of time you can get into a state where muscles in your hands or feet can seize and cramp. Like I end up feeling like my hands end up
Whoa.
going like this. And she's like, if you didn't know that was coming, it'd be concerning. Like I can't open my hands.
Yeah, I'd say
And
from
so I was,
breathing.
yeah, from just, and it came on pretty quickly actually. And my whole arms went numb and crampy. And then when you're getting, and things like that can kind of go through different parts of your body. And then you kind of sort of see what is it that's coming up for you when that's happening. Like, is it some type of memory or something?
Yeah.
And it's, you're just not in the capacity to have your ego overanalyze what's happening.
Right.
It's just kind of an intense experience that your nervous system is taking over.
And it like forces you to accept that it's happening. Like you can't rationalize or distract yourself. You're just present with whatever is happening.
It's like uber presence, and and your nervous system is ruling the day. And you have a person being there like that's making sure you're feeling okay, or if you seem like you need to yell, you can yell. If you want to cry, you can cry. Just helping you accept it and keep doing it. Which was, it was intense. It was kind of exhausting. It was, yeah. And yeah, you kind of get a bit more of a genuine, true kind of emotion out of it. And part of it, I couldn't help but the anatomy nerd in me was fascinated by how I was feeling different pulls and tensions and what your nervous system's capable of without being super distracted from it. But I definitely, my brain went there and
gives you like an embodied version of that. Like something you're thinking about and you observe on other people, but you get to suddenly feel it in such a visceral way.
Yeah, as I said, it kicked in quicker. Once you have your body in that activated state, you're not necessarily having to keep doing the like, it kind of regulates back to kind of where it needs to be. If you just don't have to overthink it.
And then do you just like chill in the state for 2 hours?
Well, I wouldn't say any aspect of it was chilling. It was kind of...
Sorry, I mean, you vibe with a state for a few hours?
Well, I think that it's hard to have a sense of time, but I think I was there beginning to end for maybe 2.5 hours.
Interesting. How much was it?
I think it was about $250.
Sounds reasonable for that level of attention from someone.
Yeah, and then I kind of came in and out of that sort of more intense state. There was a few times I went back to a bit of a more relatively calm state, and then I think it was getting towards the end of the time I ended up going back into that state, and then I had to allow myself to calm back down, and and then that was kind of her sort of just give me little cues, or was taking the mask off and getting more engaged back in the room of not your inner space of your brain and your nervous system, and kind of being reattuned to what's around you.
Yeah. That's what I have to do with kids when they lose track of reality and they're so anxious and stressed that they're not present. It's like you always say, like, open your eyes. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? So it's interesting on that internal and external orientation.
And the music is it's a good kind of, it's just a soothing kind of peaceful thing that does help allow you to, it creates a good environment and kind of guides you. But then, as you're coming back, you kind of, reorient yourself and come back to it. And then, and then shift back into actually talking about it a little bit and kind of what came up for you in that.
Oh, so that is part of the process of like some kind of debrief and putting the linens back, as my therapist likes to say.
Effectively, yeah. It was a bit of a bookend of a little bit of talking, but more of a like, this is your experience kind of thing, and see what that means for you. And then, because as I say, I do work about of helping people really understand the physical manifestations of their stress, anxieties, and fears, and how their nervous system under the surface is ruling the day and creating a lot of these tensions and pains you got. It doesn't necessarily mean it is some broken structure inside of you. And if you go to a counselor, they may or may not be able to help elicit what that is and coming up because it is a visceral physical thing within you.
Yes.
Sort of mean different types of therapies like this can allow you an access to a different layer of you that you can't just talk your way through.
I think that's really interesting. And we talked in our philosophy episode a little bit about the brain having two simulations of reality, like one simulation that we share with, I mean, who knows? It's a consciousness question, but probably like at least mammals, maybe more. That's there's no words in there. It's a like visceral animal layer. And then we have a simulation of that simulation, which is our mind and our view of our feelings and our thoughts and all of that. And a lot of therapeutic arts are interfacing at that really high level and then like working their way in. Not all, like EMDR and stuff. So it is really cool to find therapeutic methods that start with a core experience and build from that, those sense memories and those embodied understandings, and then work your way up to some words rather than always starting with the word. Like what we were talking about with Andy. You can't just start with a psychological thought or a label for something. You have to start with something concrete that you can then think about later and put those layers of words on top of. So It's really interesting.
I've seen a lot of clients that have found EMDR to be quite helpful, particularly with their trauma aspects of things. It didn't necessarily fix anything, but it made them be more accepting or put some past trauma kind of in place, and that's less rattling to their nervous system. And that's, again, finding some of the different types of therapies that aren't just somebody physically doing something to you or having to overly talk about it, like letting you kind of embody it and just sort of feel it or experience it. And I do a lot of what you call visceral manipulation, this form of osteopathic manual therapy, which is effectively trying to feel and sense and move the tensions people hold around their organs in their body. You'll see some counselors that are trained in somatic work some of them will do a bit of hands-on stuff, but are really going through talk therapy and then trying to help them feel and sense where that comes into their body. And I
find that huge for me personally. That was like life-changing because I was so disassociated from my physical experience of life as a kid. And I could feel in my body where things were occurring. My knowledge of what was happening went up, inside me.
Yeah. People generally have a very superficial layer of how their bodies and brains and their experience of being them actually works. And that creates a lot of fear in the end when you have these weird sensations coming up and you don't have any attachment to the meaning of what's happening to them. So that's where I view it as my job to try to help them make sense of that, whether they're realizing they're interested in doing that or not.
Yeah.
Whether it's me poking and prodding at them and explaining them, or once I've done that with them a few times, then start to just be like, okay, here's some of these other avenues that you should explore or try to.
Makes me think of something that I want my students to do is struggle and then succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if they experience the feeling of struggling and then succeeding, they will like reattribute struggle. They will think of struggle as something that is manageable. But in the moment when they're doing the struggle, I know that it's 50-50. Like this might be the rep where you learn about failure or the rep where you learn about success under struggle. And so I think one interesting thing for a practitioner is you have to allow the experience to occur as it occurs. You can't like jimmy it so that it ends up exactly. A lot of parents would want me to force that kid to get an A so that they learn that the struggle leads to an A. I want them to find that A themselves, so I can't control it. And it's stressful as a practitioner because I'm like, there's a 1 in 3 chance like you don't do well. And now I have to go like, okay, what are we going to learn from this failure to try that again?
People in the end learn more from their failures than their successes, but they just have to be able or willing to do that.
The practitioner has to like let go of the fact that your outcome could be a little worse today, at least from your felt experience, but that's what it's going to take to get you there.
Yeah. Like when I'm doing IMS with people, like dry needling, particularly the first couple times I've seen them, I do have to explain it to them, but people can have a widely different experience with it. From some people almost find it tickles a little bit, to people find it excruciatingly painful. It's based partly on their personality, their fear of needles, their comfort level with pain or discomfort. I usually have a pretty good sense of what they're going to get out of it, but I'm like, this is probably going to help. This could really flare you up and see what happens. And like, okay, well, we're going to have to learn from that. And I've also seen people that have seen somebody else and they've just been carpet bombed by needles and they're starting a bit traumatized by the thing that I'm suggesting I do to them.
Yeah.
So I have to be like, okay, I got to diplomatically dip my toe in the water. And this is probably going to help a lot, but it could go the other way, and how to pull back from if it went sideways.
And reassuring them, if it goes sideways, I'm going to be here. I'm not going to be like practicing denial and saying, I'm going to be there with that failure. Because a lot of the times they're like, feel like, oh, you put me out in the boat by myself, and like things didn't go well. And then they develop the fear because they learn that when things don't go well, they're on their own, they're stranded. So I think also having the practitioner say, like, I know it can go either way. I can help you no matter which way it goes, like whether you fail or whether you succeed.
Yeah, that's where the ability to have some individual care or person there to help you, like you with students or me with people that have all sorts of chronic or resistant pain things that are trying to navigate the medical system and keep doing little short visits with their doctor, and they're like, okay, well, let's order a new x-ray or an MRI. I have this guy, I just saw him yesterday again, but he's now had a MRI of his brain, an MRI of his neck. He's about to wait for an EMG test on his arm, and I'm 95% sure they're going to find nothing, and I've been telling him that diplomatically all the way along, and he even said, he's like, I just like coming back for your reassurance kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like just having somebody be there to be like, no, you're doing the right thing. You're checking off your kind of medical boxes, but have the expectation that that's normal, that you're going to be fine. And this, if they all come back normal, like you still find yourself caught in a place, well, what's wrong with me? But like, well, you've checked off your boxes. You don't have a tumor. There's nothing sort of red flags you have to worry about. So, and then you'll have less inherent worries, and we can move probably more proactively forward from there.
It's interesting how much people need someone to hold space for them. I guess it speaks to the depth of the attachment system, really, is how I think of it. Is like many people did not grow up in a securely attached environment. And so adulthood feels so scary, and like medical things are so scary. And the idea that you just need someone to hold some space who knows what's going on and finds the uncertainty tolerable, I think it gives people hope that the uncertainty isn't a predictor of disaster. Because I find that all the time. It's like I'm trying to tell people, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. This could happen, this could happen, this could happen. But here's what would happen if we went down that road. You'd still be okay. Like yesterday, I did a worst case scenario. It's like, and then you'd be in summer school. And then you'd have to make up this class with younger kids next year. That's your worst case scenario. Could you handle that? And as the kid was like, yeah, I can handle that, we could now take the risk and try the thing because he could handle the downside of it. And how brave are people when they do that without that person? They like take the risk and they don't know what's going to happen. And they try something and they don't have someone holding space for them.
The lack of control is what breeds anxiety, and there's a balance in there where you don't want to be too controlling, but you also have to be open to that there is multiple scenarios that could happen, and having someone that has experience and some wisdom of seen this before, as you said, you can create some objectivity or be like, these are the likely outcomes, which people will tend to get a tunnel vision and not see most of those outcomes and fixate on whatever outcome they see as the bad one, and that in itself can become the bigger problem that needs to be dealt with before you can get to the other problems.
Think of this, it's making me think of this piece of advice I give all the time, which is don't be your therapist's hardest client.
Yeah.
Don't be your practitioner's hardest client. And like, of course, everyone is somebody's hardest client, and usually you want to know, like the practitioner should say, like, this is new area for me, but we could do it, and you negotiate that. But you want a therapist or a practitioner who has seen this before and has a sense of the likely outcomes and has a sense of what would be a disaster and what would not. And I think actually a lot of trouble can come from I see kids with serious psychiatric issues going to really inexperienced therapists who are more around the like insight and talk-based therapy and are not really maybe ready to see what's going on for this person. And so then they are not able to hold the space for the hard and scary things, and they reduce things to, this might be a delusion, but we're going to treat it like a mood issue. And you might miss major symptoms if you're not experienced.
Yeah, I find trouble in some people are seeing a practitioner that pretty much thinks or claims they can help fix this person on their own, as opposed to trying to, like wrap them with 3 or 4 different people or give them options of choices, not feel like you're in one person's method.
It's a huge issue in psychoeducational assessments, like a learning disabilities assessment, because one form of a learning disabilities assessment is basically you meet me once or twice, I give you an IQ test, an achievement test, maybe another test. And then I write a report, and the computer system can write the report. The computer system drafts the report. Or somebody sees you once, they form a hypothesis. They say, can you come back in 3 weeks? I want to try this like visual memory test. And every test is part of their process of putting together a theory and then, getting you to the right practitioners. And the other one is looking to just put you in a report box and generate some standard recommendations with the same claim that this is going to like fix it, when it's clearly not. Because it sounds like one of the most common things we both do is we work in stages, or like we work one move at a time and see what the result is. And that's kind of the opposite of like a protocol that is guaranteed to fix you 100% of the time.
It even comes back to what I don't like generally labeling things, whether it's diagnosing them with something or like having a system that I do that it's like you have to do this quoted sort of approach to. Same with like fad diets or this or that. So it's like anything that's just kind of marketable is probably.
I wonder what does make those work, or like what is the appeal? Obviously the not having to have discretion, not having to make choices for someone who wants to just follow. I guess I can see that. For me, like I kind of get comfort, I guess, from following a system, but I also have a very deep internal resistance to the lack of awareness, like the lack of the automated nature of a protocol.
Yeah, I think a lot of those systems have inherent good in them. You just have to realize, not let them get too culty for you, where you extract what you're going to get out of it, and then open your sort of blinders a little bit and realize, okay, my learning curve is plateaued. Maybe time to look at some other system. And if you can approach it that way, where you can know what good you get out of a few different things that can come at it from a different angle,
I think
you're
that's
more
really
likely to get in it good.
Yeah, I think there's this interesting contradiction or paradox space where you're a true believer for an hour.
Yeah.
When you're there, you listen to your coach and you take their worldview so seriously. And then when you leave the room, you like hold on to what's good and you let go of what's not, and you bring on another paradigm. And I think that's a really healthy way to thread the needle between trusting people completely and having to do your own thing and have everything be completely personalized for you. Like there's a balance there where you can trust for a moment.
Yeah. I guess the way I've approached kind of learning as a professional, like I took all sorts of postgraduate courses, and the first level of thing was all focused around learning to wiggle and feel different joints, a bit more of a chiropractic thing, understanding the arthrokinematics of joints and spines and things, where you just get zoomed into everything comes from the spine. And then I got a bit exposed to more of the needling approach, which originally stems from acupuncture, and seeing how much that changed my paradigm of how I could help somebody. Looking at something from a different angle helps you understand it that much more. So you kind of, if you go into learning something new, open to that maybe everything you know so far might be some level of false, look at it and realize you can kind of different way to crack an egg kind of thing, and let some of it fall away, learn how the two things interact with each other, which is where learning to do some levels of very gentle, subtle manual therapy and then coordinate that together with poking needles in people that can be quite intense, where one can ramp you right up and one can amp you right down.
Oh my God, I totally do that. Like I know which question to use to make you feel safe and relaxed and confident. And I know which question is going to push your anxiety right in the point of pain to bring out the problem.
Yeah, bringing people through a bit, some ups and downs is good for their own self-regulation. And you see people after they've had like a concussion, their autonomic nervous system is quite dysregulated. Like their sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system that affects their heart rate and their sweating and their breathing rate. They have trouble bringing it back to normal for a good while. Part of that is if the brain's not functioning that well, it in itself is inherently anxiety provoking. Getting them doing little challenges, getting them on like a bike, getting their heart rate up, see where their symptoms come, sort of an exposure therapy to allow them to habituate back to it is helpful. And same with people that are very sensitized on one certain part of pain. You kind of have to help them experience different levels of discomfort around their body and get them moving and help their nervous system habituate to it instead of just being super attenuated onto this one little thing.
What does attenuated mean? Focused?
Focus, just I don't know if I think I used that word properly, but yes, just
tell us in the
just being super zoomed in and it's the only thing you can think about, and you have to kind of expose you to different movements and help you learn to ignore it.
It connects to me to this like early AI researcher, Jeff Hawkins, the guy who made the Palm Pilot. He wrote this book called On Intelligence. I don't even know how to I'll try and say it, but basically he's talking about like, if your eyes are shut and I put an object in your hand, what are you going to do to recognize the object? You're going to move it around in your hand, basically, and allow different neurons to get a different perspective on the shape so that your higher level brain regions can create a model of what the whole thing is like. And I think that's true also of like having multiple experiences, feeling relaxed doing math, feeling stressed doing math, feeling confident, feeling like you don't know what's going on. And then the object, which would be like doing math, becomes more solid as you see it from all these different perspectives. And I think that's the benefit of the multi-practitioner versus the one paradigm where you end up with the you only have a hammer, so every thing is a nail kind of scenario.
Yeah. And trying to create some balance within the hierarchy of the practitioners you have. That's
interesting.
That's where I end up. Have to have this diplomatic kind of relationship with people and their doctors or their counselors or their tutors or their parents. Or
for me, it's their teachers and the administrators of their school usually is the clutch political relationship.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge and respect that this person is an integral part of their life, but they may be an inherent part of the problem.
Yep. And even if what they have is good, if what they have is to offer is good, again, if it's like it's too narrow a frame that the person's not getting what they need that's broader than that. I find that with psychologists often. It's like the client has a therapist they really like, and I really want them to work with that therapist. I respect that therapist. And they need a particular type of therapy, like EMDR, that's out of the scope of that therapist. And that's a complicated issue. Like, how do you respect that kid's work with that therapist and say, we might need to broaden who's involved here?
Yeah. And everything generally costs money too, so sometimes they can't actually afford to do the thing that they should do, and they're stuck with what's the most accessible to work with them and what can they afford. So you have to work within those constraints too.